We were speaking about the nature of how the animal soul thinks, and we were describing that according to the degree that a person has intellectual maturity, he will desire emotionally things that are appropriate to his intellectual understanding. The example we gave is that kids desire little things. Kids desire little things, they get upset over little things, even though you can't get your kid upset about a little thing because to him it's not a little thing. And a famous Maisa with Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, that there was a mother and the boy was in the bath and he was playing with a little boat and he was, not wanting to come out of the bath. Sounds like Maisa B'chol Young every day in my house. And the kids don't want to come out. They made a whole thing, and the mother went in and took the little dinghy and threw it out. And said, "You get out of the bath right now. It's right time to go to bed." And the kid lost and was screaming. So he told us to the Chassidim. He said, "Did the mother do something wrong?" He said, "No, he has to go. The kid has to go to bed." He said, "What about he took the boat and he threw it, and she threw it out?" So he said, "It's a boat. What is it?" So Salanta said to that child, she basically just was like sinking the Titanic. You took the boat? Do you know the world that I made with this boat? So the mother's like, come on, give me a break. It's a little toy, it's nothing. For the kid, it's a big thing. But the emes is it big? The kid, there's a famous question. This is Allah Hakdama for today in the Tanya. There's a famous question which is, we know that when Klal Yisrael, before we got the Torah, Hashem gave us big riches. Right? We came up b'rechush gadol, with the big riches. Why did we get those riches? Because Hashem promised to Avram Avinu in the Bris Bein Basarim that when you go down to a land that's not yours and you're going to be strangers, that you're going to leave with great wealth. Now, what was the great wealth? What was Hashem referring to? Does anybody know what the real great wealth was? The Torah. We're going to leave and we're going to go get the Torah. Is there any bigger wealth than the Torah? That's mamish, like King David says, Toivli Torahs picha me alfe zav chesed. More than all the gold in the world, in the past, the very nice gold in the world, is Torah. Torah is the greatest riches there is. So Hashem said, in order that it shouldn't look like Hashem didn't keep His promise to Avram, to that great tzaddik Avram, Hashem made it that the Jews left Egypt with massive wealth. Why? We're about to get the Torah. Why do we need the wealth of Egypt? With all the gold and the carriage, the whole thing. Why do we need that? So the Dubna Maggid said a famous mashal. He said there was a young boy who was a protege violin player. He was a little boy and he was the greatest violin player in the entire land. And he was playing the biggest concert he ever did. He was a little boy, 5-6 years old. And the entire country went wild when they heard this performance. He was not from this world how good he was. And at the end of the entire symphony, so the master came to him, who was the conductor and ran the entire symphony, handed him this check with a one and a lot of zeros on it, I'll tell you that much. And he gave it to the boy, and the boy starts crying. I spent years, this is what you give me? And he ran out of the symphony crying, and ran to the mother and said, I worked so hard for this, and they give me this piece of paper. What can I do with this thing? Make a paper airplane? Well, what is it? So the mother contacted the conductor and said, he's not old enough to understand what's written on this paper. I'm going to take this paper, I'll put it somewhere I'm going to protect this thing, I'll keep it somewhere safe. Next concert, you tell him that you have something really good for him. You give him a giant bag of lollipops. I know where we get the lollipops from. Get the giant bag of lollipops. and did the concert and he gave him the bag of lollipops, and this kid was so happy. And then he gave him another piece of paper and he said, just take this to your mother, and she'll know what to do with it. The lollipops, that's your payment. So that's Pshat when the Klal Yisrael came in Mitzrayim. We weren't mature enough to realize there was a big piece of paper coming by Kabbalah Satayr. We were still too young. We were still too influenced, our hashkafa and our philosophy, by the Mitzrayim. Therefore, we couldn't appreciate what we were going to get. So Hashem said, I'll give you some lollipops. You know what that's called? Like the gold of Fort Knox. You're thinking like, that's not such lollipops, you know. The gold of Fort Knox that's not bad. Yeah, compared to the Torah? Compared to the Torah? You think you can make a comparison? So the Baal Tanya says, Ketanim, look inside, Ki hakotam choshek ve'oyev devarim ketanim b'chusei erech. Little people, small, meaning these time with Pashat kids, because their brains aren't so developed, they're not sophisticated yet, they like little things. Lefi shesichlei kotam, v'kotzer, lahasik devarim yikarim yosem mehem. And they don't have appreciation for more precious things. So you think, when I get older, I don't like lollipops anymore. I like gadgets. I like iPhones. You get older, you know what you want to get? You want to buy. You have ambitions. You want to buy an island. No. Now you're getting really. You want to buy a planet. I'm sure guys out there trying to buy a planet. Am I correct in that assessment? I really think people they're on their way to buy planet, to take over planets. You know, you think these are really advanced people. It's nothing. What, you're gonna buy a planet? It's pechusei erech. It's nothing. It's the biggest lollipop in the sky you ever saw. That's nothing. What does it mean to have refined seichel? What about working on having a good marriage? What about working on a good marriage? On good communication? He's thinking, hold on, this guy, he buys planets. This guy just didn't yell at his kids? Come on. Who's bigger? Who's a bigger person? The one who's buying a planet, obviously. No, he's nothing. He's a cotton. He's just had the biggest lollipop you ever found. But the person who's working on not becoming an angry person, because his seichel is so mature that he realizes that what's life all about? Refining my anger, being a more patient person, being a more loving person. That this is the Torah. These are values that are forever. So you own a planet, and then what? You can't put that into the grave. It doesn't go. So it's important that we keep that perspective. The Baal Tanya is teaching us that just because you think that you've matured and now your toys are just bigger, doesn't mean that we actually got any more mature, and we're not still acting out of nefesh Bahamas. Okay? Person who's got a mind of the nefesh Bahamas, he gets upset over little things. Kleinigkeits, narishkeit. You guys know what narishkeit means? Nonsense, like narishkeit. Do you know what the root of the word narishkeit? In Yiddish, everything is so good. A nar, what's a nar? What's that?
A young person?
Yeah, nar is a kid. It's like kiddies, like a narishkeit. It's such. We use that. It's like it's narishkeit. It's like you're doing stuff that but you're getting so upset. It's a narishkeit. It's nothing. I remember before I got married, Mashkiach, the mirror, Zichron Livracha, Arn Chodosh. So I said, Rebbe, what should I know about getting married? He said, in the mirror, the shmuzim are very quick. It's a Rambam, and then it's like a 2-second thing. So he said to me, make your marriage, don't get upset over mabekach. Mabekach. What is it? It's nothing. It's mabekach. It doesn't mean anything. That's stuff that it's narishkeit. What? So the thing wasn't in place, and you thought that thing should be clean, and then it's very hard because nefesh Bahamas gets upset over these things. It's only because it's a small mindedness. So like kids, they get upset over the littlest things. So what? So he sat in your seat for a second, and the whole thing. And kids go on to carry on about the littlest things. To don't make your marriage that you get upset over mabakach. Become bigger. Become bigger. Become bigger. We were saying yesterday that Shlomo Zalman, that we know famously, like Rav Zinkin was sharing with us by the kever, that there's a minhag that a husband and wife ask for forgiveness by the kever, by the Levine. So they asked Shlomo Zalman, do you want to now ask for forgiveness? He said, I have nothing to ask for forgiveness for. He says, I know that I never, the way that Rav Nebenzahl said it to me, there was never, of course we have disagreements, but there was never this is the way Rav Nebenzahl said it to me, also when I just got married to go see him, he said there was no tosafot. We never there's nothing extra. There was a discussion, but nothing extra. That's mabakach. It doesn't mean anything. So ketanim are people that, because their minds are small, they get lost in the mabakachs of life, okay? Right, remember we said we're explaining the animal soul, the way that it works. The mind of the animal soul is very selfish and small and superficial, and it's just shallow. So it gets involved emotionally with shallow, superficial things. Even though you might think that I'm buying mountains and planets, and it's still small compared to things of deep value. The chendis, Paris, a cotton gets all excited about very little things. Like teenagers, that he got the latest shoes, the latest Air Jordans and this. We make such an identification around my shoes and my haircut. I said teenagers, but that could go. It's such an identity. But you're defined by that? There's no shaykhs to you. Usharmida, says the Balatanya. Ve'esa b'chinas elo ataneus, and these 10 spiritually impure energies which comprise the animal soul, like we've been building up in the Tanya. If chas v'shalom, a person engages in them, i.e., he gets involved in petty thoughts, or he gets involved in emotionally petty things. And they're not about, is it petty? He's talking about buying planets here. This guy's not a petty person. It's lollipops. Compared to working on the marriage with your wife, it's nothing. So if a person invests in these things, or he actually does them, and we don't mean that he's doing evil things here. He's just doing things that are small and that are self-centered. Even if he's going to share this island or this planet with some other person. But he limits himself to that. And God is not involved in the equation. So look what happens. His thoughts that are in his mind, his words that are in his mouth, the power of his actions that are in his hands, but it means his body, v'shari varav, nikroim, these are called, famous words, levushe misavu, the dirty clothing. Remember, we learned back in the Tanya that there's 3 garments that your soul wears. What are the 3 garments? You have your godly soul and your animal soul. Your godly soul dresses and puts on Gucci of thought, speech, and action, of thinking godly thoughts, saying godly speech, and doing godly actions. But if the animal soul starts acting, then the animal soul dresses up in his 3 garments, but they're disgusting garments. They're the garments of thought, the garments of speech, i.e. expressing out the animal soul. Allowing the animal soul to have an expression, literally an expression. Now, are we able to control the desire of the animal soul? We're going to see, the Balatanya is going to teach us that that's not your job. Unless all you guys are tzaddikim. You're going to teach me your ways.
Just about how to impact
It's all about will you let your animal soul express itself in the garments of thought, speech, and action? Or will you hold it back that it never takes over your garments? It never sort of puts on the dirty clothing. Even though it wants to, let's make it very practical, it wants to think that bad thing about the other guy. He saw a guy do something, he's ready to just let this thought, he's ready to just enjoy this thought. or think about something you shouldn't be thinking about. Not a nice thing. And all of a sudden he says, I will not. And he just pushes it away. We're going to use techniques later in the Sefer. Obviously, it's a 2-year program. We have work to do still. Speech, he has a lashon hara, a juicy lashon hara on the tip of. He is, and he knows everybody's there. It's like he's gonna be a grand slam home run. If he says this lashon hara, he's gonna knock down the pins. He's gonna be the man. If he says he wants to, but he doesn't let it leave his lips. Mamish holds himself back. That's why there's so many guards, right? You have a tongue, you have teeth and lips. There's a lot of gates to try to get something up. And the beard, especially the tzaddikim of the mustache goes all the way over. Ichimara, it's like, is there a mouth there? I don't even know. Plus the towel. You know what I'm saying? There's sha'arim. Nothing's getting by there. So, yeah, but by the tzaddikim, it doesn't even think to come up. There's other secrets. Sayyid Hashem lireyav. Al kapanim. Sayyid chachamim. The nekuda is that he wants to, but he doesn't let it come out. But he wants to. Does he beat himself that he wanted to say the lashon hara? No, because in the world of the Beinoni, you're in the fight. In the world of the Beinoni, you may never stop that desire. You're going to curb it through your life, especially different times. You're going to be able to control it more, but it's going to take different forms. Your whole life, you're going to be a fighter. And that's really why, basically, the end of the Sefer is showing you how the Beinoni might even be greater than the Tzaddik. Because the Tzaddik doesn't even have the desire to say the lashon hara. He's here for his own purpose. The Beinoni wants to say the lashon hara, but always holds it back from getting into the 3 garments of thought, speech, and action. And then obviously, the action garment, he never carries it out. He wanted to do something, wanted to do a nasty thing. It wasn't nice. Take the money from the purse, whatever it is. And he held himself back. I can't do that. Take the extra schnitzel. He knew the other guy didn't get enough. The last bit of the sauce down at the sauce station, the last sweet chili, he knows he already had a good amount on his plate, but how could he not? He needs a good amount. And he sees a few other guys, and he knows one of those guys also likes sweet chili. And the Nefesh Baham is saying, come on, you deserve this. Whatever the diburim are in his head, and he's looking just like, it's a quick. He goes squish it out as fast as he can, and he pretends like, I thought there was more. Whatever kol echad lafi darga delay. Each one of us according to our darga. Whatever. Obviously I'm speaking about myself here. I'm more of the male guy. Spicy male guy. Okay, that's why this is just me giving myself muscle. The Beinoni does everything he can that the Nefesh Bahamis never expresses out in thought, speech, and action. And the thought, speech, and action in the Nefesh Bahamis is called the 3 dirty garments. And I'll tell you a secret. When you go to the mikvah on Erev Shabbos, what's the first thing you're supposed to think about when you go to the mikvah? I'm taking off the dirty garments of the week. What that means is that you're washing away that your Nefesh Bahamis came into the garments of thought, speech, and action during the week, and I'm cleansing that off. That's also why, physically, the minhag is when you go to the mikveh on Friday, you don't put any of the clothes back on that you wore during the week. You guys know that? You have a mikveh bag with fresh stuff. And even if you're going to have I like take another shower at the house, whatever, at the house, fine, just put on clean, not weekday garments. Because the first machshav when you go into the mikveh is, I'm washing away, I'm taking off the dirty garments. Hasaras habegodim atzoy. Taking off the filthy garments of the week. So we're talking about spiritual garments. And then the second dip, of course, is what? I'm putting on the clean garments of my nefesh elikis. Of thought, speech, and action. I'm putting on fresh Gucci. Fresh stuff. And that's why when you get out of the mikveh, you put on fresh Shabbos garments. And therefore, we're very careful. We never want to allow that the Nefesh Bahamis expresses out in thought, speech, and action. That's levushe misavu, le'eser bechinas elu atameus. That these 10 impure spheres in our soul, we call them 10 on the Nefesh Bahamis, impure powers, koyachas, Shemislabshes behem b'shas ma'isa idibur machshava. They come into a person during the machshava idibur ma'isa, that they express themselves outward. Obviously, all these 10 spheres have to do with what the Roshi was talking about, the entire creation of the world, the whole system of creating the world, that it has to be that there's equal and opposite forces, that the neshama has its 10 forces and the animal soul has its 10 forces. And now the Tanya, let's just go 2 lines further. Anything which is coming from the animal soul has a representation. Basically, if you look at the world in a basic way, it's living from the animal soul. The world is essentially operating from the animal soul. That's the default setting. Remember, the animal soul, is it something bad? Well, we know it is, but it's something that's just concealing God. It's something that is just like an animal. I don't say that, why are you eating from the trough? Stop doing that. The animal just tells you, bro, leave me alone. I have to survive. I'm eating because that's what I need to survive. You don't get upset at the animal. He's doing what he needs to do. The same way, really, you shouldn't get upset at the kid who's like, excited about a lollipop. You're like, oh, one day, kid, you'll understand. Let him enjoy the lollipop. That's all he knows. He's small, so that like we said, we don't have a taina on a 5-year-old kid. He's not, like the gadol ador yet. Because what do you expect of me? That he's a cotton. He's a cotton. He's a nar, so he's involved in narishkeit. You get that. And the parent that tries to say, no toys in the house, he only learns Gemara, and he's going to be the Vilna Gaon. What you say, what are you crazy? The one step of Rebbe said a funny thing. Tzaddikim have a way of saying things that pierce. Said the fathers that tell their kids when they come to shul that you better sit in shul beside me, you leave for 1 second, it's the end of you. And you may gotta sit like this in shul and you have to have siddur, mamish. Said those same kids that came to shul and they had to mamish stay in shul the whole time. Every single minute in shul they think, I just gotta get out of here, I can't stay. So they never were yotzi, coming to shul and being outside, just being a normal kid. So what's gonna happen? Those same kids that never got time to go outside, when they get older and then they really have to be in shul, they're the ones that are never in shul. Because they never got the time to not be in shul. The better thing is you have your kid come to shul and he's, okay, it doesn't mean the kids can run around and do whatever they want. You have to have, they have to have some tzura. But it means you want them to enjoy and be in the kedusha of shul. And then they'll start enjoying it so much that now when they actually have to be in shul, there's no other place they want to be. I felt this also last night with all of the Rabbanim time with Dadi Morris, Zechron Lebracha. All he wanted to do was be in shul. All he wanted to do was be in shul. Which means his parents must have been doing something so beautiful. Giving him that feeling of what shul is, it's a special place. That he came early to shul, just to be in shul. Just to be in shul. And that's why there's certain people, even when they're young and they're already old, they're already wise. Like everyone was saying that he's like a Rosh Shiva. He already lived the whole life in those few years. Because he was so wise beyond his years. We should be Zoich Mamish to live in the way of the Nefesh of Kedusha. And to know that the Nefesh of Bahamas is here. And we're going to get more into the Nefesh of Bahamas. And Bezrat Hashem, to live a life of Kedusha, to make Kiddush Shabbat Omen.